Hello everybody, Dark Skeleton here, and in this video I wanted to take a brief look at the expansion reveal for Whispers of the Old Gods and the cards that they've announced so far. The expansion itself being Whispers of the Old Gods, at this point I think we pretty much already knew that, but the cards are, well, I'm not the biggest fan, we could say that so far, but I'm going to give it time. I understand this is just 6 cards that we have to look at right now, but it's probably not exactly my cup of tea. And here's what I mean. So we take a look at the first big card, one of the centerpieces of the whole set, Cthulhu. It has nothing to do with the stats in the card. That's perfectly fine. A 10 mana 6/6. Before you judge, hold on, let me explain. A 10 mana 6/6 that deals its damage in random shots across the enemy's field, much like an Avenging Wrath would do. However, what makes this card unique is that it gets stronger if you play certain cards throughout the game. So Beckoner of Evil, a 2 mana 2/3 battle cry, give you a Cthulhu +2/2, and that doesn't matter if it's on the field or in your hand. I don't know if it would count like in the graveyard if you bring it back with a revive or something like that, but that would be a very interesting thing to test. Probably doesn't count that. But the idea here is you play cards like Beckoner of Evil, and Cthulhu gets stronger before you play it. So then Cthulhu becomes your final whammy, the final thing that has to be answered or you lose the game immediately, basically. And that's fine in and of itself. However, you throw in other cards like Twilight Elder, same kind of thing. 3 mana, 3/4. As long as this lasts a turn, well, actually, the turn it comes out, it does give Cthulhu +1/+1. So for every turn it's out, Cthulhu gets another +1/+1. But what I'm trying to get to is the idea that Cthulhu, as a card, forces you, it forces the set, rather, to contain multiple cards that are completely useless unless you are playing Cthulhu. So one card has already taken up 3 of the 134 slots, effectively. Now, I'm not totally certain if Cthulhu is going to have more minions that play around this idea. The way I was kind of reading through the information here was that, let's actually go ahead and find it. 4 of the legendary old gods. Okay, yeah, here we go. No ancient unknowable evil is complete without a dedicated host of capable cultists. Cthulhu's followers have been frantically preparing the world for the old gods' awakening, and when each cultist is played, they grant Cthulhu a dose of power. Now, the way I'm kind of reading that and some of the other information is that basically there's going to be more cards like this. And there are more than one old gods. In fact, there is supposed to be 4, I believe, the other 3 being N'Zoth, Yogg-Saron, who I actually do vaguely remember from WoW, and Ysharj, Yshaarj, pronounce it however you want. But with 4 of these guys, I gotta wonder, are the other 3 gonna also have cultist cards like this? I would imagine so. It's what a couple people have been sort of telling me. But if that's the case, we could see 15, 20, or even more cards in this set be purely dedicated to decks which happen to be running these one of these 4 old gods. And that's okay in a sense. I guess it's no different than really having like a mech deck, huh? It's just instead of having a label, it's having a cult that supports one card in the deck. So it is a synergy kind of thing. Oh, but yeah, at the end of the day, if each of these old gods have some of these cards to make them more playable, then those are going to take up a lot of the cards in the set, specifically to support these 4 cards. And maybe that's okay. Maybe 15, 20 cards, that's really not that unusual. To complain about that would be to complain about mech synergy. So maybe I'm over worried about it, but it is something I'm going to be keeping an eye on for sure. Because personally, when I build decks, I don't really like mech decks because mech is just, wow, what do you do to construct it? You put all the things that say mech synergy in it. Really tough, right? And then you run into the same deck over and over again. Like, they play a mech, oh, you know exactly which cards they're playing. It's not very exciting. Whereas with some of these other cards, like Validated Doomsayer, for instance, which is a card I do like a lot. Let me go ahead and zoom in here, actually. So, Validated Doomsayer. At the start of your turn, set this minion's attack to 7, as opposed to blowing up the field. I do very much like the card art. Theoretically, this becomes a 7/7, which is quite ridiculous. Though it opens your opponent up to charging this with minions, or a Stampeding Coda would outright annihilate this. And I mean, for you to make it a 7/7 for free, it would effectively require you to have board control. But I think that's a good thing, in the sense that it supports control-style decks. So something like a Fatigue Mage, something along those lines, where you blow up the field, and you can do that really easily with Mechanical Sheep, which is no longer going to be in the game, but, I mean, there'll be replacements or similar items. But then you're rewarded for that, because then you get to play a 7/7, which may be even better in this set going forward with standard mode, because if I scroll down a bit, let's zoom out here, but you can see Big Game Hunter pushes in an Big Game Hunter pushes in an unhealthy direction. It can limit design space. It's high on the list of cards to look at. So my hope there is that Big Game Hunter is going to get nerfed. And I think it should be, because honestly, it's been a staple in Control deck since the start of the game. And if you're playing something very, very late game, like a Control Warrior, and like anything that's not a priest basically, but a control deck, you basically should have one in your deck, or you're just playing ineffectively. But by having one of those in your deck in all of these control versus control matchups where the big cards do actually matter, it kind of dissuades you from playing those high attack minions, because why would you want something like a Gruul, a 7/7 that grows +1/+1 at the end of everyone's turn? Why would you want something like that in your deck, which theoretically is a really tough minion? It's a big stompy, it's a big threat, but then it just gets sniped by BGH. It makes cards like that pointless. So the only high attack minions that really got played were either cards like the Molten and Mountain Giants, and rarely Frost Giant, where you can kind of cheese them out for a lot less mana. Cards like Ragnaros, where they'll do a lot of damage before they leave the field the turn they come out. Or, I mean, how many other... Oh yeah, Dr. Boom, of course, because Dr. Boom is just broken, and even if he gets sniped, it's not like you lose too much tempo. But if Dr. Boom doesn't get sniped, you basically win the game. But all the other high attack legendaries are like, meh, why would I play that? Why would I play that in a priest deck when I could just play Ysera and not even have to deal with BGH most of the time? I mean, unless Ysera draws the Emerald Drake, but I mean, if that's your worry, who cares if they have a BGH at that point? Ysera's already done the damage. So, in conclusion on BGH, kind of hoping that's going to happen. So that was a really long-winded way to say that a 7/7 5 mana is going to be pretty good. Anyway. Corrupted Healbot. I was looking at this card earlier, and I was like, oh, is there going to be an alternate kind of mech synergy? There might be. I mean, it is a mech after all. But really, what this card is a big zombie chow. But I don't think it's as strong as zombie chow. It really isn't. I mean, compare this to Pit Fighter. 5 mana, 5/6. This gets +1 attack with the Death Rattle of healing your opponent for 8. That does not really justify it. Unless A, you're playing a mech deck, or B, you're playing a priest deck where you're going to Arcanized Soul Priest, have this Death Rattle, and deal 8 damage to your opponent's face. That could be pretty good. I guess the third example would be is if there was just so much control in your deck that you literally did not care at all about your opponent's life total, like if you're playing Fatigue Warrior maybe. But anyway, not a bad card. It's nice to see Zombie Chow kind of have a rebirth in a way. So the last card though for today, and hopefully I do hope there's some better cards out tomorrow. The only one I really like today is Validated Doomsayer. Catherine's okay, I guess. Is Polluted Hoarder. Last card. So basically it's a loot hoarder, but twice as much mana and twice as much stats. What else is there to really say about it? I'd argue this card's probably worse than Loot Hoarder. It's probably a bad version of Gnomish Engineer. No, Gnomish Experimenter. The two 4 for 4 mana, because that draws your card immediately. There's no chance for silence, and I would usually argue that a 2/4 is better than a 4/2. I mean, Ice Rager isn't played at all, but then sorry, sweating a bit. Ice Rager isn't played at all, but the 2/5 that Druids have, Druid of the Flame, I believe, sometimes sees play in some kind of casual decks. But I guess the difference is Ice Rager isn't played in anything, but Druid of the Flame kind of has a place. It definitely has a place in Arena. As a 2/5 for 3 mana, that's pretty good. But a 4/2 for 4 mana, that's pretty garbage. I mean, Cult Master, in most cases, why not just play Cult Master? Because Cult Master has the potential to gain even more cards than just one. And there's no chance for the Death Rattle getting silenced either. This card would really suck if it got silenced. That would be pretty painful. But yeah, that's it for today, I guess. Overall, I do like the feel of the new expansion, but the cards, generally speaking, I'm hoping there's some better stuff coming out later, because honestly, I kind of preferred the Inspire cards from TGT, despite how ineffective they were in pretty much anything but Arena when you got far ahead. Oh, and Tavern Brawl. The ape guy who gives bananas, that thing was broken in some Tavern Brawls. But anyway, I digress. I've been Dark Skeleton. Thank you for watching. If you want to let me know, what do you think of this setup where I'm basically talking with my face and got the cards right over direction challenged right over here? Let me know. And I'll see you in my next video. Till then.